This third video in this series is going to look, as promised, at double chromatics. So let's first off look at what a double chromatic is. Double chromatic is two consecutive semitone intervals, or if you want to look at it this way, two frets going up to or down to a target note. Let's have a look at that just in a single pitch for a moment. If I just take C again, I'm going to look at a double chromatic from below. So I've got to go down two frets. So if I'm on C, I go down to B flat, and if I want to come up to my target note of C using a double chromatic, it's B flat, B natural, C. And you probably guessed, if you're going from above, it's the same idea. So I go up two half steps, takes me up to D, double chromatic from above, going down to the target note would be. Now, if I put all that together, we get, and that's quite a few notes, 5 separate notes. And we then have to multiply that, because we're going to be looking at using double chromatics to the other target tones in our triads. We've looked so far at major and minor triads. I'm going to stick with major triad for this one. So if you remember, that's root, major third, perfect fifth, and then the octave above. Now if I do a double chromatic up to each one of those target tones, we get this. Okay, do that again. That's up to the high octave, that's to the fifth, to the major third, and to the root. Now if we do it the other way around, you probably guessed how this is going to work. So there I'm going D, D flat to C to target the octave at C. For the fifth I go A flat, G. For the major third I'm going to go F sharp, F to E, and finally for the root D, D flat down to C. Okay, so that's giving us a lot of extra notes to play with. Double chromatics from below and double chromatics from above. It's pretty rare, I think, you'd find players using them this much on one chord. And part of the reason for that is, by the very nature, some of these approach note ideas are introducing notes which are outside the scale or the key that you're playing in. So we have to be a bit careful how we use them, and I'll cover that in more detail in a future lesson. But one thing you can get going with pretty quickly once you've got these under your fingers a little bit, from approaches from below and from above, is actually trying to create little lines which use these. Now, one idea I like a lot with approach notes is to not play double chromatics from both sides of a target note at the same time. Well, at the same time, but one after the other, because it can sound a bit too busy. But I might do something like delve into the original idea we looked at, which was playing a chromatic, a single chromatic from below, and maybe using a double chromatic from above, and that can give you some really nice embellishments onto our target notes. So let's pick one. I'm going to use a chromatic from below, and I'm going to combine that with a double chromatic from above. So if I do that on our octave C, so I'll just do a bit slower, so you've got chromatic from below, double chromatic from above, target note. Then on to the fifth, same idea, major third, and finally the root. Now that kind of line, or the idea behind it, can really yield a lot of good results, and I would strongly recommend practicing these as an exercise first until your fingers get used to this kind of movement before you start applying it in the solo, but you will find fairly quickly it will get into your soloing. Now let's take this idea one stage further. Up until now I've really just been using triads, major triad, and in the second video we looked at minor triads. I'm going to go back to a major bass chord, but I'm going to add a seventh to it. So we're not going to be playing C major seventh. So root, major third, fifth, and then a major seventh at the top. Now, all the ideas we've looked at so far can also be applied to the seventh of a chord. So you can try it with the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh, regardless of chord type. So let's just revise quickly what would happen if we take the approaches we've looked at so far and we apply them to a C major seventh chord. Obviously we've got the chromatic from below. So there I'm going chromatically below the major seventh, so it's B flat to B natural. Chromatic from below the fifth, from below the third, and below the root. So again, we can use scale step above. So the scale step above the major seventh is the root, funnily enough, or the octave. So, and now do a combination. So it's expanded the sound of the chord from triad, 3-note, to seventh chord, 4 notes. And as you probably guessed already, you could change the order there. You could do diatonic scale step above, go into chromatic from below, and you could also use some of our double chromatics. So I'm going to use that one I did earlier, where I'm going to play a double chromatic from above, and you'll hear this actually sounds quite grating on the ears initially. But that effect is kind of blurred after a while because you're eventually resolving onto strong chord tones. Just do that again. And there are lots of different variations on that, which I'll try and go through in some future videos, but I think that will give you a good starting point. While we're on the subject of seventh chords, all these ideas can be applied to the various different seventh chords that you might come across. So for example, you could apply all this to dominant chords, dominant seventh chords. You could apply it to minor seventh chords, minor seventh flat 5 chords. And the main thing to be aware of when you do that is that you get the diatonic scale step above appropriate to the chord. Now I'll probably do a longer video on that because it's quite a big subject, but just to give you a starting point, if I took, say, something like C dominant seventh instead of C major seventh, just quickly adapt the chromatic from below to a scale step above, I'd get this. Now there, I'm targeting the flat seventh of the chord, as well as the root, the third and the fifth. So let's do that again slowly. Octave. I could play that here. Several different ways to finger it. And the scale I'm using there is a dominant seventh scale, a Mixolydian mode, if you know modes, because that's giving me a good scale choice to apply over this chord. So for C dominant seventh, using chromatics from below, that's half steps again, and also diatonic scale steps from above, which are from the Mixolydian mode. Okay, now if all that's gone by rather quickly and it was kind of hard to follow or anything, maybe just rewind the video a couple of times. I think you'll get the idea pretty quickly. A couple of final points about using these. It's pretty important, I think, to make sure that you are very comfortable playing these as exercises on single chords first. So using things like the triads, major seventh chords, minor seventh, and work on each one of those for a while on their own before you start trying to combine them, because it can get a little bit confusing if you're not clear on what notes you're targeting and particularly what scale is providing the diatonic scale steps. But it gets easier as you go through it, and I think you will find it will add a lot to your playing by using approach notes like this. Okay, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.